Yeah, I think it's really important for parents to understand, you don't need to process things with your kids. Now, your kids will need to process with you, but you don't need to process with your kids.
It's good, huh?
And so, you and I like to process things together. That's how we process, but we don't openly discuss situations and then afterwards be like, oh, we shouldn't have talked about that in front of the kids. We've learned the hard way.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. We are Greg and Jacquie Francis, and welcome to High Performance Parenting, where our passionate goal is to encourage you to raise champion children in a crazy world. Every week, we will bring you multiple episodes from our extensive experience of raising our six happy, healthy, successful, godly kids who are confidently equipped to win big in life.
We deeply believe that any parent who is provided with the right knowledge and continual support can raise amazing kids. And when they do, all of our futures get better. If raising up future generations of absolute champions matters to you as much as it does to us, here's how you can contribute. Like and share this podcast with everyone you know. And together, let's embrace this journey of raising champion kids in a crazy world. Okay, guys, welcome back. So, what do you give me a look for? Jackie just asked me a question about what we're going to talk about today, and I just ignored her and just hit start.
Yeah, and so you're wondering why I'm giving you a look.
Honey, sometimes it needs to be a little mysterious, right? Got to keep you on your toes. I think we should talk about today is we should talk about prepping your kids to know, and even keeping yourself on track to know when is the appropriate time to share information. Right? So what kind of sparked this conversation was recently we had some friends of the kids over, right? And they were hanging out and doing their thing and, just having fun, doing what they do. And then all of a sudden we're hearing from, did you hear from our kids? Because they had told them, like, hey, did you know that so-and-so is pregnant? Right? Or I think it was first, it's like, my mom and dad are going to have another baby. And by the way, so is so-and-so. Isn't that right? Mm-hmm. And so next thing you know, you heard this and you're texting so-and-so and saying, so I heard you're having a baby. Congrats, right? And what'd she say?
Oh, how'd you find out that information? And I explained. And she was like, oh, I did not know that information, she was really endearing, by the way, like super endearing, but shocked, right? Like, because, a little surprised. And it just made us start thinking the importance of how everybody gets an opportunity to share their own information. It's not our job to share everybody's information with everybody.
Yeah.
And that goes for a multitude of different stuff. But in this scenario, somebody was excited. They wanted to be able to share their own story. Sure. Of growing their family and to tell people that they feel like they need to tell in certain order and, whatever it may be. And it's never our job to be the one sharing all that all the time. Mm-hmm. And how important it is for us to teach our family this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Because if as parents, we don't teach our kids the importance of, hey, nobody's keeping a secret here, but it's not our responsibility to share everybody's business all the time.
Yeah.
If mom and dad find out something and we tell you it, or if you find out something and you tell us, it wouldn't be the responsibility for us to go share it with the world.
And kids can naturally do it. I mean, how many times?
Oh, yes.
When we've learned this from the hard way too. Because
yes.
It would be, our 5 kids, let's say, and maybe Hunter's just a baby at the time. And somebody would ask us a question, and we didn't really want to give the full answer. We don't even know these people, let's say. They're just being nice about whatever we're talking. I don't even remember specific things. And all of a sudden, you'd have like a 7-year-old Ellie or something be like, hey, let me tell you about this, just kind of blurt it out because they're actually doing what we've been teaching them to do, which is to be assertive and communicative. But we hadn't really prepped them about, all right, there are some times when you have to use a little bit of discernment and obviously the younger they are, the more you have to directly prep them. Over time, kids start kind of learning this stuff. They're like, well, why wouldn't we just tell everybody everything? We talk about it all in our household. And we just had to walk them through these kind of scenarios, correct?
Yeah, and I think, so certain scenarios like that, what you're just bringing up, I remember when we first started talking about even sex with the kids, okay? Yeah. This was however many years ago, 5 years ago or so, or, more than that, whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know, 8 years ago, whatever it was. When we started talking about it, and we had done some research on some good Christian books and how to do it. And we talked to some parents that had some advice on things, what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
And then we obviously came together and I decided, okay, our olders are ready for this. And every year we'll just add another kid and kind of go over this again. Right. And I just remember as we started talking about sex with our kids, and again, we started when they were like young because we wanted to be the ones that influenced them and be the ones that could teach them this stuff. We didn't want them looking elsewhere. We didn't want them checking with their friends. We didn't want them asking other parents. We wanted to be ahead of the game. And honestly, we wanted to be open with our kids because first of all, they were getting older and we want to make sure they understand like body parts and all that stuff. And I just remember sitting down with the older kids, and as we started discussing it, they had questions, and we're discussing it, and we're doing it. But at the end of every conversation, we said, you know what? This is a really great topic that moms and dads like to talk about with their kids. They like to discuss this with their kids. Right. So what we would like you guys to do is to be honoring of every family to be able to discuss it with their own children when they're ready. We would like for you not to go teach everybody about this. And if anybody brings it up to you at a class or in sports or anything, hey, do you know about sex or do you know about, body parts or something like that? Your opportunity is to say, you know what? Yeah, but I think you should go talk to your parents about that because that's what I'm going to do. And it's like giving them the understanding that some things just stay in our home, not secrets. They're not secrets. They're just topics that we don't want everybody to be expressing everywhere.
Right. And there's different reasons for different things. You know what I mean? Like you just described, we got to let the parents do the parents' job in that scenario. And we're doing our job as parents, like even the daughter talking about the person who was pregnant. So that's obviously like a parent who was talking but didn't prep their kids.
Correct.
And this kid probably overheard but wasn't prepped. But the reality is that sweet innocent kid, because she really is, right? She didn't mean any harm at all. However, no one's ever really explained to her that sometimes when people are pregnant, everybody has a little different philosophy about how they're going to let people know. We just had a friend that's been trying to get pregnant forever, and they wanted to tell certain people in person first, right? Before they announced to other people. We were one of them. So they were like, and that's the way they wanted to do it. If somebody else would have told us instead of them, they would have felt like that would have made, I don't know, it wouldn't have been as cool of a celebratory moment.
It was their moment to share.
Yeah. And then some people, they like to wait until a certain amount of time before they tell anybody. Right. And so, but if a kid doesn't know this, this is the kind of stuff that us as parents, we have to prep our kids to be able to understand, like, all right, let's use a little discernment here. And here's why, so yeah, I mean, it's a big deal.
Well, and what was neat about that is that they came to me with that information and it gave me a chance to talk to our kids. So I then said, you know what? Wow, that's so cool. That is awesome. Like, oh my gosh, somebody's having a baby. Like, golly, God is so good. You know what I mean? Like, our philosophy, I want to have a seventh. So my philosophy, I guess I should say.
Well, it sounds like there's plenty of kids popping around here. You can borrow a couple from time to time.
But regardless, I think it's illegal for me to keep them though, right? Like I can't.
You can borrow them.
But I could do the night shift, right? But I will just tell you, it gave me an opportunity with our kids to say, hey, babies, I'm really glad you told me. Like, that's awesome news, But in the same sense, let's wait and let somebody else share that news. Let's let the mom and dad share it. I know you're probably excited, but I don't want you walking up and talking about it. I don't want you walking up to them and talking about it. I want to allow them to have their moment to share it the way they want to share it. And they were like, oh, well, how come that is, Mom? And it gave me a chance to explain again discernment, and what that's like and all the reasons you just said. Everybody has their own timing for this stuff, right? And I just think it was important to express to our girls, if you hear stuff, please bring it to me because let's not tell everybody before I get a chance to understand it myself.
Right.
And the girls were super excited about that. They were like, oh, we didn't even know we should bring it. I'm like, well, that's why we keep talking. Like, tell me everything that you had going on because I can teach you what to do with this information when you find out these kind of things.
Yeah, for sure. And our kids love this stuff, especially now at their age, well, really probably, 10, even to 15 now, right? Like they all enjoy this. They feel so prepared. It helps them with so much confidence when they're just out in the world, versus being thrown into a situation they don't know what to do and they're probably going to do it wrong. And, but yeah, other things like if someone in our household or somebody we know is dealing with an illness, like we don't really like talking to other people about it. And the reason being is just because we know that sickness is not from God. And we know that we need to stand in our faith and we need to, no matter what we see or hear, we need to stand on what truth is, right? And when we're standing on truth, we're operating in our faith. And I know, sometimes even you're like, oh, I'm dealing with this, can you pray for me? Well, I'm always hesitant about that too, because I don't know what they're praying. I don't know if they know how to pray. Do they know how to pray standing on the word of God and truth? Or are they praying, God, please do X, Y, Z because we're scared? It's like, no, it's like we stand in faith that X, Y, Z is already done because of what Jesus already did. And we need to be able to only talk to people that can stand like that. So that way it doesn't create unbelief or lack of faith or wrong words being said in other households. This is another area, though, that we teach our kids. Like this is one of those areas where we only have a handful of people that we'll share some things with, because we know from experience that they know how to stand. They know how to pray. They know how to be in agreement with truth. And so anyways, that's a big one.
Yeah, another thing that's really big for us is making sure that people understand in our household how important it is that when we have certain conversations, before we go out into the world to try to teach it to everybody else, that we discuss it in-house first. Even the girls were just talking to me the other day about, lack of people skills some people have, or lack of discernment, honestly, and almost rudeness, and they brought it to my attention. It's people that we know and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm so glad you brought this. Let's discuss this and how to handle this. You know what I mean? Because when a scenario happens again and somebody's behaving in a way that's like this, first of all, I want to know. I want to have your back. I want to know what's happening. And to teach our kids how to handle those situations so they're not in those situations just blindly trying to figure it out, But also to discuss with them what not to do and how not to embarrass other people,
Right.
Like, I think it's so important that we are, of course, very caring about everybody's feelings and stuff like that. In this world, it just seems that people get out of control, like my feelings. And then because of that, they just get away with a lot of junk, But I will just tell you, we have to have some discernment, but in the flip side, there's a way to handle things with authority. And even if it does hurt somebody's feelings, it's going to have to be okay, because this is how we're going to handle this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really great. I mean, other things that we do for communication, like we've had to prep our kids in this, and I'm sure every parent will understand this. Sometimes when you and I have, we have life going on and we're running kids to and from, and, there's a situation and you and I are trying to talk in the front of the Fran van out there, right? And we got a whole, bus full of kids in the back, and everybody's just kind of talking and doing their thing.
And then
the next thing you know, you and I are kind of like lowering our voice a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I need to tell you about this. But all of a sudden everybody just gets quiet. and then we have to literally, because we can sense that, okay, everybody's like listening harder.
No, they're leaning
now.
in towards the front.
And literally it was the other day, and you said something like, you know what, I'll just tell you about it later. I don't remember what you said. And Abby, way in the back, she goes, I'm listening, Mom.
Literally, I go, I'm going to tell you later because I feel like people are listening.
Yeah.
And I think they thought I said aren't listening.
Oh.
And she goes, I'm listening, Mom. And I'm like, obviously.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, clearly.
Yeah. And so then now how do you explain this to your kids? Well, it isn't, hey, we're not like keeping things, but there's some times when just me and Mom need to be able to talk freely without having to re-explain everything. There's just,
or we're not ready to explain it.
Yeah.
There's situations that happen. We need to have
some conversations here. And, even like sometimes when in the evening, when you and I are both kind of exhausted, and we'll go into, our bedroom or our piano room or something and just sit down and be able to start talking. And a lot of times, it's sweet. Kids all want to come in too. And every now and then, though, you and I have to keep a little bit of a boundary and be like, hey, listen, you got to give us a little bit of space to talk for a little while. And then we usually have to set a timer. Hey, come in 20 minutes or something like that. And we get our fill. And you know what? Because we've explained this, that it isn't like there's something going on that's major or something you have to be concerned about or anything or whatever. It's just, we just needed a little time, and especially in our house, because we're all over each other all the time, right?
Yeah, I think it's really important for parents to understand, you don't need to process things with your kids.
Yeah, that's good.
You really don't. You don't have to process things with your kids. Now, your kids will need to process with you, but you don't need to process with your kids.
That's good, huh?
And so, you and I like to process things together. That's how we process. And then after that, and if we need, a coach to help us with that after that, or a, counsel or whatever, we go from there. But we don't openly discuss situations and then afterwards be like, oh, we shouldn't have talked about that in front of the kids. We've learned the hard way.
Yep.
about that. I look back and I'm like, I don't know how many times we were like, and they were listening, and now we have to fix this. And I don't even want to deal with the situation, let alone fix the situation.
Right.
You know? And so I just encourage you, like, as parents, like, talk amongst yourself first. You know, take some time, go in a different room, shut the door, tell your kids to give you some space for a minute. Hey, I need to discuss something with Dad. Nobody's in trouble. Nothing's happened. I just want to talk with Dad about a couple things. You know, I want to talk to Mom. And then if they're like, oh, what were you guys talking about? I'll be like, if we wanted you to know, we would have told you. Now, what else would you like to talk about? And we're kind of like that, like, honest with our kids. Like, we're not going to lie. We're not going to make stuff up. If I wanted you to know, I would have discussed it with you. But right now, it's between Dad and I. So what else would you like to talk about?
And we say it exactly like that.
And they're like, okay. Because I don't want them to feel like they can just intrude on every conversation that adults are having.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not for them. You know, and even we take that as far as to even explain that to them when we have people over. You know what I mean? Sometimes we have people over and we enjoy our family being around everybody, but then sometimes it's adult conversation time. And I explained to the kids, like, I'd like to sit and talk with my friends now. Dad and I have our friends over, or I have my friends over. I'd like for you to go do something. And if they're like, oh, I just want to hang out with you guys, I'd be like, I take you to hang out with your friends to play sports and dance and everything else. I'm hanging out with my friends now. I'd like to have some adult conversation.
Right.
And they're like, oh. But I will tell you, I've been in situations where some moms don't do that and their kids are sitting there and we're talking about stuff and I'm just like, I don't even understand why we're talking about this in front of your kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Then also it discourages you from wanting to do that again.
Correct.
Because you're like, we're not going to actually have good connect time because you're going to let your kids be all over you. And we're on, you don't have the discernment to not have these kind of conversations in front of young ears. And so then it's weird, right?
Always
you feel
weird.
like you're getting pulled into it and you don't even want to be. And so then, yeah.
Yeah, and so I just think it's important. I mean, I know you'll do the same thing. If you're in conversations with some guys, you're just like, hey, Drews, me and the guys are going to chat for a while. Go ahead and play ball. I'm not going to be able to play with you right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's just being honest with your kids.
That's right. Good stuff. I love it, though. You don't have to process things with your kids. They need to process things with you.
Right.
It's a good one. Quote from Jacquie Francis. It's amazing. All right. Hey everyone, thanks for listening and thanks for your love and support. We hope that today's episode added tremendous value to you and your family. It would mean so much to us if you would partner with us on our mission of helping parents around the globe raise champion children in this crazy world.
To do so, simply take a moment to like and share this podcast with everyone in your network. See you next time.